I'd like to review the idea of the remainder theorem, the idea that if we use synthetic division and we get to the end and we don't get 0, it tells us two things. First, if we don't get 0, we know that minus 3 is not a root of the polynomial. It's not an answer for one of the zeros. But it also tells us something else. It tells us that if I were to plug in negative 3, I would get negative 16. Maybe we didn't expect that, but that's what the truth is. The remainder is what we would get if we plugged in negative 3. Now, we plugged in numbers already in this lesson, and the bell work asked you to evaluate by plugging in numbers. We did there. And when we find the axis of symmetry, when we're graphing a quadratic, we plug that value for x, that's our axis of symmetry, our dotted line down the middle of our parabola, and we plug that into a formula. We plug that into the function. Well, this is another way to plug in the negative 3, to use synthetic division, and we just keep that in mind. It's not going to bear a part in this problem, but it's something I want you to remember. We will use it that way. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and use synthetic division here. And so the normal way we would do this, it does play a part. Pardon me. This is the normal way we would set this up, but we're not going to do that. Okay? And we're going to take what would be the answer here, which is a plus 1. Okay, and we're going to use synthetic division instead. So it will bear a part. Maybe I need a little more room than that. Let's take a little bit more room. We'll say my root is 1, and I'm going to write down the coefficients. What are the coefficients? 4. Well, there's nothing there, so it's 1, minus 3, and 7. Okay, so I'm going to say 4, and 1, and minus 3, and 7. And if you notice, as it was in descending order, none of the x's got left out. I didn't skip x squared, I didn't skip x, and I didn't skip my constant, my 7. So synthetic division says we'll bring down the 4, that's the first thing we do, and then we'll say 1 times 4. Okay? 1 times 4 is 4, and we write that up here. 4 is the answer. And then we're going to add these together. We're going to say 5. And then we'll say 1 times 5. Okay? And we'll get 5. Then we'll add again. And we will get 2. And we'll say 1 times 2. Let me highlight that again. 1 times 2. Maybe. 1 times 2 is 2, and we'll add these and we'll get 9. And we say, oh, okay, that's my result. And that's what I would get if I were to plug in, if I have, this is f of x, and it equals that. If I plug in a 1, then I'm going to get 9. Okay, you say, well, I don't believe you. Well, okay, let's check it. We'll say, let's say 4 times 1 to the 3rd power plus 1 squared minus 3 times 1 plus 7. So we have 4 plus 1 minus 3 plus 7. And I say, well, if I add that up, I'm going to get 9. So it's actually true. If I plug it in, that's what I get. I get 5, take away 3 is 2, plus 7 is 9. So it's true.